everyone. TGIF, and also happy anniversary of the Edmund Pettus Bridge weekend. That is also this weekend. That's coming up this weekend as well. The sort of one of the seminal moments in civil rights history. Also, day 6 of Women's History Month. Day 6 of Women's History Month. So happy that too. We're trying to get all the happies in, all the things there are. Put it in the chat if I'm missing anything. Big ups to everybody that is watching and listening on YouTube to my right, Substack to my left, Facebook in the atmosphere, as well as our Twitchies on Twitch and our LinkedIn friends. We don't want to forget our, hey, Jason. Oh, wait, you're muted. You got to pop your voice on.
I just want to say good evening, family. How you guys doing? Let's have a great show. You ready to cook, Joy?
Yeah, I'm ready to cook. And we love seeing Jason's cool looking office because it's very snug.
Yes.
It's very snug. It's very fetching.
I have all the ingredients ready, so you just call for them and let's cook this meal, okay?
Let's do this. Well, thank you all very much. So just letting you all know, I'll tell you what I've been doing all day. I've had the TV on our friends at C-SPAN all day, watching something happen today that I promise you will never happen for our current president. Like, it'll never happen. I mean, never. So today, hundreds of mourners, hundreds of attendees, and millions of viewers across cable TV and the interwebs, and dozens of dignitaries gathered in the great city of Chicago, Illinois. Look at that front row, including Presidents Clinton, Obama, and Biden, former Vice President Kamala Harris. You can see her there on the end. You can see Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, Jill Biden, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, members of Congress, a bunch of CBC members, including Maxine Waters, star athletes, notably Isaiah Thomas, who caught some strays today for giving an overly long speech. I mean, sports stars, religious leaders, music stars, including Jennifer Hudson, Mavis Staples, BiBi Winans, Marvin Winans, just a star-studded group of attendees who gathered to remember the Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson at his homegoing at Rainbow Push. This was the big one in Chicago. I mean, just like the esteem, the love, the personal stories. I don't know if you guys watched it, including just some really like moving remembrances from Bill Clinton, who spoke about Reverend Jackson speaking at, asking Clinton to speak at his mom's funeral, saying, my mom isn't famous, but when she passed, he reached out to Bill Clinton and asked if Bill Clinton would speak at his mom's funeral. He's like, he was so moved, because they were such close friends. He told the story of the time Reverend Jackson, during the impeachment thing is happening. He gets a call from Reverend Jackson, and Reverend Jackson says, I don't want to speak to you. Give the phone to Chelsea. And he hands the phone to Chelsea Clinton because he really literally called to talk to Chelsea Clinton, to talk her through the nightmare that her father was going through. Remember, she was really young back in the 90s when this was happening, and to pray with her during the impeachment. You had Vice President Kamala Harris talking about how she was inspired into politics by the example of Reverend Jackson. You had Joe Biden, former President Biden, get up and talk about being a stutterer and personally knowing Reverend Jackson and how his example inspired him to overcome being a stutterer and to become. It was really an incredible, beautiful service. I had a little FOMO because I did have an invite, but I was not able to go because I wanted to be here with you guys and wanted to make sure that I was here. But it was such a beautiful celebration of life. Absolutely. As we're hearing people who watched it in the chat, just really beautiful, loving stories, great remembrances. Can you imagine anything like that ever happening for our current president? Because I honestly can't. I cannot imagine when it's his time, that kind of love and the outpouring of love and just the beautiful, classy, incredible service. I cannot imagine. And as you'll recall, when Reverend Jackson passed, our very tacky wannabe dictator, he posted a really long, weird meme that made it all about himself and said that Reverend Jackson couldn't stand Barack Obama, trying to like stir the pot, even as Reverend Jackson lay dead. Well, Barack Hussein Obama walked up in Rainbow Push today to put his legendary oratorical power to good use, remembering Reverend Jackson, who he claimed as his true inspiration today.
Jesse, the Democratic Party changed its rules, ending the winner-take-all distribution of delegates during presidential primaries, which meant underdogs and outsiders like Bill Clinton or Bernie Sanders could stay competitive and build momentum instead of getting knocked out early. And it was because of that path that he had laid, because of his courage, his audacity, that 2 decades later, a young black senator from Chicago's South Side would even be taken seriously as a candidate for the presidential nomination.
It was pretty dope. I mean, his whole speech was about 28 minutes long. We're going to post the entire Obama memoriam on the Joy Reid Show channel after this show is over. So you guys, if you want to watch the whole 28 minutes, it was really worth the watch. It was so good. Bill Clinton's speech was also phenomenal. Joe Biden's speech also good. And of course, Kamala Harris' speech really good. But I have to say, President Obama can talk. He got up there and talked his talk, and he gave an incredible speech. I will also give Yusuf, who is one of the sons of Jesse Jackson. He was one of the last speakers. Phenomenal, and talked about the fact that his father would have been coming out against this war in Iran, would have been against the things that Trump is doing. I mean, like really, really good. An excellent service. I hope you guys got a chance to see it. And President Obama, Reverend Dr. Obama, we're gonna have to call him after this. He closed his remarks with a whole shot across the fascist bow.
We are living in a time when it can be hard to hope. Each day we wake up to some new assault on our democratic institutions. Another setback to the idea of the rule of law. An offense to common decency. Every day you wake up to things you just didn't think were possible. Each day we're told by those in high office to fear each other and to turn on each other, and that some Americans count more than others, and that some don't even count at all. Everywhere we see greed and bigotry being celebrated, and bullying and mockery masquerading as strength. We see science and expertise denigrated, while ignorance and dishonesty and cruelty and corruption are reaping untold rewards. Every single day we see that, and it's hard to hope in those moments. So it may be tempting to get discouraged, to give in to cynicism. It may be tempting for some to compromise with power and grab what you can, or even for good people to maybe just put your head down and wait for the storm to pass. But this man, Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson, inspires us to take a harder path. His voice calls on each of us to be heralds of change, to be messengers of hope, to step forward and say, send me. Wherever we have a chance to make an impact, whether it's in our school, or our workplaces, or our neighborhoods, or our cities. Not for fame, not for glory, or because success is guaranteed, but because it gives our life purpose. Because it aligns with what our faith tells us God demands. And because if we don't step up, no one else will. How fortunate we were that Jesse Jackson answered that call. What a great debt we owe to him. May God bless Reverend Jackson. May he rest in eternal peace. God bless you.
How much do we miss that man? We had a classy, brilliant, empathetic, kind, decent president. Now, he wasn't perfect. Obama, he made his mistakes. He hired Tom Homan. That was not good. I didn't love his pick for the Supreme Court. Didn't love the idea of him trying to put that man who wound up being our horrible attorney general on the court. Didn't love all his decisions. But when I tell you a top 10 president, just off of healthcare alone, and his eloquence, yes, as the chat just talking about the eloquence, his ability to communicate, just to express himself in a way that was easy to understand, was not trying to put it over your head, but that made it like where you could get it, but that it was beautiful. Like, if you can speak in a way that your words are actually poetry, that is a skill. And he has the gift. And this is someone who was his favorite speechwriter. Like he had speechwriters who would edit the drafts, but he was saying what he wrote. And he was speaking from his heart and his own intellect. This is someone who so outclasses the creature that we are forced to deal with in office now that it's hard to believe they had the same job. Can you imagine if the current occupant of the White House had been invited? And he clearly wasn't. And again, it says something that you had all those former presidents in-house and one was missing that's still alive other than Bush, W. The fact that his absence spoke very loudly, as he is the current president. And of course, they denied his regime the opportunity for Reverend Jackson to lie in state. There was supposed to be an additional event in D.C. And there are a lot of D.C. people who would love to have been at something and allow him to lie in state. They said no. But President Obama, flew into Chicago, where his political career was born, and absolutely electrified that crowd. Absolutely amazing. Let me bring in Mark Thompson, the Reverend Mark Thompson, who was at the service today. He's in his car, so we're gonna hope that he gets enough signal to be able to talk with us. Reverend Mark, I have serious FOMO, so make it worse. Tell me what it was like to be in that room.
Well, God bless you, Joy. It was tremendous. It was moving. It was long. We didn't reach the Aretha Franklin threshold of 8 hours, thankfully. But it was quite meaningful to see, all the major.
I think Aretha funeral is still going on, Mark.
Yeah, right. We were all there. It was a lot. But all the tributes that we heard, he was worthy of. When you think about it, and all of those politicians, including Bill Clinton, owe the work of Reverend Jackson to their political careers. And Barack Obama acknowledged that. I thought about something yesterday, Joy. We started Selma last night. I was in Selma last night, flew here this morning, headed back to Selma tomorrow. Not since Reconstruction, where there were thousands of Black elected officials, local, state, and even in Congress and the Senate. Not since thousands were elected after Reconstruction, before all that was taken away, and it took Bloody Sunday in Selma to bring it back. Only the Jackson campaigns and their impact have resulted in that many African-American elected officials. And Barack Obama called the roll, from Doug Wilder. He didn't mention David Dinkins. We didn't mention the mayors. But that was the only other moment when we had that volume of African-American elected officials. That was the role that Reverend Jackson played. But also, most importantly, he was a spiritual leader. He was an inspiration. I Am Somebody was no small thing, where people had been made to feel like nobodies. And so what he did by saying I am somebody was even more than people thought it was, because it was on the same continuum of great Black leaders and theologians and preachers who allow us to see the image of God in ourselves. We were never supposed to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Bishop Henry McNeil Turner in the 1900s, or turn of the century, God is a Negro. That's I Am Somebody. Marcus Garvey, 1924, God is Black in Madison Square Garden. That's I Am Somebody. Du Bois, Jesus Christ in Texas, Cone, the cross and lynching tree. All of the Jesse Jackson is on that trajectory, because when we talk about somebodyness, he made us see ourselves and have Malcolm asked that we be treated with the respect of human beings. That's the same as I am somebody.
Yes.
And so that was his impact. And I think a lot of people emphasize that today, how he touched them. He made everyone feel, even the stranger, the people he wasn't that intimate with, he made everyone feel special and elevated. And that was the ministry. That was his ministry. That was his theology.
Yeah, I mean, yes, we can is along that same trajectory, and he said it in defeat in New Hampshire, but lifted us up. It's one of the most memorable speeches in history. But it was that same moment of, we are not people who are defeatable, and we, as you call the beautiful community who supported Obama, they said no. He said no. Just because we're set back here, that doesn't mean we can't. Yes, we can. Right. And so what I did love about Barack Obama being there, President Obama being there to speak for Reverend Jackson, is that it closed a circle that I think had been a painful reality during the Obama presidency, that the two of them were not aligned. And they realigned themselves, thankfully, when Reverend Jackson was still alive. And I think for a lot of people, seeing the two first Black presidents, because he was Reverend Jackson was supposed to be my first Black president. That's who I voted for. And yes, we can. When I was in preschool and in elementary school, that was our mantra. That he was the guy on Sesame Street making us feel seen. And so for those two to come back together, I think was beautiful. And everyone was good, but I feel like Bill Clinton and President Clinton, President Obama, kind of, they soared. Yeah.
Well, in fairness, Joe, I mean, we family. Everything you said about what President Obama said today is true, and it was a moment of some level of reconciliation with Reverend Jackson. But the murmur in the room, I'll just be honest with you, the elephant in the room was that Jeremiah Wright was also sitting on the front row.
I was waiting to hear Jeremiah Wright's name and did not hear it. I heard Father Flager's name. I was going to ask you that, Mark Thompson. This is the tea we need. He was not acknowledged, and that surprises me.
Well, I'm not surprised that Obama didn't do it because of their falling out in the position he took against his pastor. But I'll be very honest with you. For those in the room, that did not win over. I mean, people at a distance, they heard President Obama and they admired him. But for those down there on the floor, his inability to have it, and maybe that wasn't the place to do it, but the inability to reconcile with his pastor. Because I want to be clear, Barack Obama was the beneficiary of Reverend Jackson's mentoring and Jeremiah Wright's mentoring, Joy.
For sure.
And the two of them mentored him as students of Dr. Samuel DeWitt Proctor. So yeah, that sooner, if there's going to be reconciliation, the ultimate reconciliation will come when there's an acknowledgement of Reverend Wright and something like that happens. And Reverend Jackson, those matters were somewhat intersected. Reverend Jackson, Reverend Wright have relationships.
Absolutely.
It made everything awkward during those 8 years and continued to do so even after them. So I just want to be transparent. Yeah. The beauty of neither one of us no longer being under corporate control, so to speak, is that we can be real with our viewers and listeners and family. And I just want people to know that. I mean, I respect President Obama. He did some great things, but Reverend Wright and Reverend Jackson were mentors of mine. And so a lot of folks had to make decisions. They had to really decide where they were going to stand. And many of us stood with the two of them. And that didn't mean we didn't stand with President Obama. But Reverend Wright was literally there on the front row. And it would have been meaningful to have acknowledged him as well.
That is so insightful. We can always count on our dear friend, Reverend Mark Thompson, who, by the way, streamed the whole thing on his social media and allowed people to watch it. If you, because you tried to watch it on C-SPAN, they kept going back to war coverage and didn't do it straight away, or commercials. It was quite irritating. So I was like, let me just C-SPAN it or watch it on your thread, Mark. But yes.
Now, did I hear you mention earlier that you were informed that Trump was not invited?
Oh, I don't know. I just know his absence spoke to me.
Yeah, well, I can confirm that he was. Out of protocol, every living president was invited. Every single one.
Oh.
Yes.
Interesting. All right.
I can confirm that.
Mark Thompson, bringing the news, bringing the tea. I appreciate you, Reverend Mark Thompson. We appreciate you. Make It Plain is the podcast. Y'all want to subscribe and follow. Thank you very much, Mark. I appreciate you. Get home safely.
Right, thank you. Thank you.
Get to your
Joy.
hotel
Take care
safely. Get
now.
to Selma safely. All right. Take care.
Thank you. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Interesting, right? We get the tea. We get the tea. We get the tea. But yes, at some point, and Reverend Jeremiah Wright is very, very elderly. And I really do hope that at some point there is some sort of reconciliation there. But interesting to note that Donald Trump was invited and chose not to be there. Interesting. This is the point where I acknowledge the wonderful sponsors who make this show possible. And this one I'm super excited about. This is a new sponsor to the Joy Reid Show. The Joy Reid Show tonight is brought to you by our friends at Fast Growing Trees. Okay, so did you know that Fast Growing Trees is America's largest and most trusted online nursery with thousands of trees and plants and over 2 million happy customers? They have all the plants that your yard or home needs, including fruit trees, privacy trees, flowering trees, shrubs, and houseplants, all grown with care and guaranteed to arrive perfectly healthy. It's like your local nursery, but anywhere you live, with more plants than you will find anywhere else. Whatever you're looking for, Fast Growing Trees helps you to find options that really work for your climate, your space, and your lifestyle. They actually have a thing on that lets you put in your zip code, and they'll tell you what zone you're in, so you actually know where your trees can grow properly. Fast Growing Trees makes it super easy to get your dream yard. Just click, order, grow, and get healthy, thriving trees delivered right to your door. Their Alive and Thrive guarantee promises that your plants will arrive happy and healthy. No green thumb required, thankfully, because I ain't got one. Just quality plants that you can count on. Plus, get ongoing support from trained plant experts who can help you plan your landscape, choose the right plants, and learn how to care for them every step of the way. And the ordering process, super simple. I will tell you, just this week, Jason and I literally logged on. We scrolled through and ordered 2 gorgeous cherry blossom trees that are on their way to make our spring yard fabulous. And soon I'll be going back because I want to get more, like cute little privacy hedges. Love, 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 and have been really interested in this product for a long time. And the best thing is you choose the size they're delivered in. So you don't have to worry about waiting like a decade for the trees to grow from tiny little sprouts to full grown. And it's super reassuring to know the trees will arrive healthy and that the whole order is supported by experts. So if you would like to fabulousize your yard, and yes, I made up the word fabulousize, Fast Growing Trees has great deals and spring planting essentials, up to half off on selected plants. And listeners and viewers to the Joy Reid Show get 20% off their first purchase when using the code JOY at checkout. That's an additional 20% off that's already discounted prices. The better plants and better growing at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code JOY at checkout. Fastgrowingtrees.com and use the code JOY. Now's the perfect time to plant. It's almost spring, y'all. Let's grow together. Use JOY to save today. Offer is valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions may apply. All right, y'all. I want y'all to take a look at Kristi Noem giving a speech. Remember I told y'all that one time I got my show canceled while I was live on the air, and then I was trending on Twitter while I'm trying to do my show, and the aide ran out with their hand out saying, "Give me your phone," because I was canceled. Me and Ronan Farris got our shows canceled on the artist formerly known as MSNBC. Well, take a look at Kristi Noem having that moment. She's giving a speech and just finding out that she had been fired. Shifted to a much more important, better job as head of the seemingly made up position of special envoy for the Shield of the Americas.
It also includes CBP, ICE, CWMD, which is countering weapons of mass destruction. So some of you may have gone through some of those trainings to help us detect some of the threats here in our homeland, and also some of the trainings that it takes as far as responding to fires and 911 calls in different specific situations. We have intelligence agencies. We also cover FEMA. FEMA is
okay, Kristi, I don't think we need to hear anymore. We get it. Yeah, what's important there is the banner at the bottom. Now, it is your periodic reminder that down to the Mar-a-Lago makeover, Kimberly Guilfoyle and Kristi Noem are basically the same person. Because you remember when they wanted to get rid of Don Jr.'s ex, Kim Guilfoyle, the one who used to be married to Gavin Newsom, because Don Jr. wanted to break up with her. So they like shunted her off to the probably not like terrible job of being U.S. ambassador to Greece. I mean, look, they got the same makeover. They did their hair the same. They both did the same Mar-a-Lago face makeover. And they've both been like shifted to new roles to get them out of the way, but not being fired. So they still get taxpayer funded salaries, but they're like, get out of our face. Although, you know, I'm not really sure that Kimberly would brag about shooting her puppy because it misbehaved. Just saying. So let's all sit back and take about 9 minutes. You will enjoy it, I promise you, to review the verbal and corruption disaster, the hearings which ended the roaming gnomes' disastrous ICE murdering tenure of former South Dakota governor, 10-gallon hat, Rolex, and luxury plane with a bed aficionado, and pose in front of the rendered shirtless men and dog-killing South Park character Kristi Noem. Do we have it? Go for it.
Sorry, Noem. Do you know what the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution says?
Search and seizure processes.
Yep. What about it? Huh? What about it? What about search and seizure?
It guarantees the right to a lawful search and seizure.
It protects individuals against unreasonable searches and seizures by the government. And I ask you that because I've sent you 3 different letters going back to February of 2025, raising concerns that you are unlawfully detaining U.S. citizens in violation of the Fourth Amendment.
The court went on to say, apparent also is the government's ignorance of an American historical document called the Declaration of Independence. 33-year-old Thomas Jefferson enumerated grievances against a would-be authoritarian king over his nascent nation. Among others were, he has sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people. He has excited domestic insurrection among us, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us. He has kept us among, in times of peace, standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. Are you aware that he wrote that? Do you know that he was writing about ICE that falls under you?
The judge?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Could you explain this?
Sir, I'm looking at a picture of an interior, looks like a bedroom.
Of an airplane?
Yes, sir.
You're not familiar with that?
These photos are not accurate. If you're referring to the airplanes that the Department of Homeland Security has purchased and are purchasing, we're using them for long-range command and control aircraft that is dictated in statute by Congress for the Department of Homeland Security to have a plane.
Luxury jet with a bedroom in it?
Yeah, we used a 737. I've been on it once, but it is being used by other administration officials, and it is used for command and control flights for the department. The department has found that in purchasing our aircraft, that we will save the taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars.
Does it have a bedroom in it?
In fact, we spent $1.42 billion on ICE deportation flights last year.
Does it have a bedroom in it?
And then I heard about an airborne episode of entitlement, arrogance, and contempt that I could hardly believe. Apparently, when your special blanket, your blankie, was left on one of the government jets and not transported over the new one, your special government employee, Corey Lewandowski, chivalrously stepped forward to fire the pilot midair, a 2003 Coast Guard Academy graduate and distinguished U.S. Coast Guard commander in Air Station, Washington, D.C. But then he had to be rehired immediately because there was no one else who could fly the two of you on the rest of the journey back home.
So, Secretary Noem, at any time during your tenure as Director of Department of Homeland Security, have you had sexual relations with Corey Lewandowski?
Mr. Chairman, I am shocked that we're going down and peddling tabloid garbage in this committee today.
Reclaiming
and
my
ma'am,
time.
one thing that I would tell you is that he is a special government employee who works for the White House. There are thousands of them in the federal government.
So reclaiming
and
my
as an
time,
advisor,
Secretary, it is
and has
okay for
no,
you to be
no
offended
authority
by
to
the
be
question.
making any
It is
decisions.
okay for you to
has
be
no
offended
authority
by the
to
question.
be making
But it is
decisions
also
and
a
putting
real
in
question.
positions. So what I would say
And
to
you should be able to
is
answer
that
the
what we do at the
question
Department of Homeland
clearly
Security every single
and without
day,
any hesitation.
every single day is to protect
If
this
someone
country
is
and to
asking
make
if
decisions.
you or any federal official is sleeping with their subordinate, that should be the easiest. You should be wanting to answer that question.
Is garbage.
Because it is not about
It is
your sex
offensive
life.
that you have brought
It is
that up.
about your
So
judgment.
that kind of
Who does Tom Homan work for? You or the president?
the president.
Okay. Why is that? Because I believe the president recognized that you weren't getting it done in Minneapolis, and you're putting us further away from pointing to this. We're beginning to get the American people to think that deporting people is wrong. It's the exact opposite. The way you're going about deporting them is wrong. The fact that you can't admit to a mistake, which looks like under investigation, is going to prove that Miss Good and Mr. Petty probably should not have been shot in the face and in the back.
How do you square that concern for waste, which I share, with the fact that you have spent $220 million running television advertisements that feature you prominently?
Sir, the president tasked me with getting the message out to the country and to other countries where we were seeing the invasion come from, with putting commercials out that told them that if they were in this country illegally, that they needed to leave, or we would detain them and remove them, and they'd not get the chance to come back to America the right way. That has been extremely effective.
Ask you to run these advertisements, is that right?
We had that conversation, yes, before I was put in this position and sworn in and confirmed, and since then as well.
Okay. Did you bid out those service contracts?
Yes, they did. They went out to a competitive bid, and career officials at the department chose who would do those advertising commercials.
And the people that you ended up picking were people who had formerly done your political work back in South Dakota. Is that right?
No, that's not correct, sir.
I think it is.
No, it's not, sir. The individuals who, I believe the careers who they chose were two different media firms. There's been conversation about their subcontractors, but we have no legal authority to look into subcontractors on work like that.
Okay. And you're saying that you're testifying that President Trump approved this ahead of time. Is that my understanding?
We had conversations about making sure that we were telling people.
No, ma'am. I'm asking you, sorry to interrupt, but the president approved ahead of time you spending $220 million running TV ads across the country in which you are featured prominently.
Yes, sir. We went through the legal processes, did it correctly.
Did the president know you were going to do this?
Yes.
He did?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
And one thing, Senator, I think would be helpful to know is how effective that communications has been. That
well, they were
overwhelmingly
effective in your name recognition. I mean, I personally just, I mean, to me, it puts the president in a terribly awkward spot. And I'm not saying you're not telling the truth. It's just hard for me to believe, knowing the president, as I do, that you said, Mr. President, here's some ads I've cut, and I'm going to spend $220 million running them, that he would have agreed to that. I don't think Russ Vought at OMB would have agreed to that. It's something we have to defend. I'm on the Appropriations Committee. My research shows that you did not bid them out, that you pick, in fact, one of the people you picked, the strategy group, Safe America Media was a company formed 11 days before you picked them, and that the strategy group got most of the money, and the head of that is married to your former spokesperson. Look, we all have friends who are qualified. I'm not quibbling with that. It troubles me.
Madam Secretary, I'll read from the notice from your agency. Given the immediate action to significantly reduce illegal immigration and border crossings, DHS identified 4 companies. 4 of the hundreds of thousands of companies in the United States, you identified 4. One of those is this Safe America Media company. Where is Safe America Media headquartered?
I don't know.
I don't know either, Madam Secretary. We can't find it. We can't find a website. We did find an address that's registered for this company. Do you know where that address is?
Is there a problem with this contract?
I'll
Because
tell you
was
about
done
it.
according to
Madam
law.
Secretary,
It was done by
the
career
address is
officials.
registered to a political
It was
operative.
dollars that
Madam,
were spent
Madam Secretary, the
to
company,
inform
and then
people
I'll give you an
that the
opportunity to
laws-
respond.
Look.
The company is registered to a political operative in Virginia. Do you know, just by way of example, whether this company that received $143 million in taxpayer dollars, has it ever done work for the government before?
I don't know. I can't.
The answer is it has not. And do you know why we know that? Because it was incorporated 8 days before this contract went out. You want the American people to believe that this is all above board?
Yes,
that $143 million of taxpayer money just happened to go to this one company that doesn't have a headquarters, doesn't have a website, has never done work for the federal government before, and is registered apparently or attached to a residence from a political operative. And of course, one of the subcontractors of that contract, as you know, is a political firm that's tied to you back when you were governor of South Dakota.
And scene. Now, you'll note that I played a bunch of Democratic members of Congress, Kamala Gardove, the big nagoos that you saw there at the end, Representative Jasmine Crockett, Pramila Jayapal. But I also played 2 Republican senators from the great states of North Carolina and Louisiana, Senator Kennedy. And that apparently is how Kristi Noem, she lost her job. Get this dance. Because apparently when Donald Trump saw that performance over the last 48 hours, he said, and he never says you're fired. He doesn't actually fire people because, there is a thing about when you're criming, you actually don't fire your co-conspirators. You move them aside because they might talk. So Kristi, you're going to have to do this, whatever this new job is that they invented for you, and that's fine. But we personally, even in your exit, we will never forget when you lied on camera about Alex Preddy by claiming that he was a domestic terrorist. Do we have that? B5.
There, you asked about a shooting that we just had in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It was an act of domestic terrorism. What happened, it was our ICE officers were out in an enforcement action. They got stuck in the snow because of the adverse weather that is in Minneapolis. They were attempting to push out their vehicle, and a woman attacked them and those surrounding them and attempted to run them over and ram them with her vehicle. An officer of ours acted quickly and defensively shot to protect himself and the people around him. And my understanding is that she was hit and is deceased. We're continuing to gather more information, but this goes to show the assaults that our ICE officers and our law enforcement are under every single day. These vehicle rammings are domestic acts of terrorism. We're working with the Department of Justice to prosecute them as such. We will continue to protect our ICE officers and in cooperation with other law enforcement agencies as well. You've seen me in the last couple of days deploy over 2,000 more officers to the Minneapolis area. And that one, I pulled that soundbite, and that was not even the right one. I meant to pull the one where she lied about Alex Preddy. That's the one where she lied about the Renee Nicole Good, which was also, quite defamatory, and she defamed them both. And so not only did she lie about Renee Nicole Good and then lie later about Alex Preddy, the FBI, we now know, also attempted to interrupt the ability of local officials to investigate the murder by ICE officials of Renee Good. A credible whistleblower says that FBI forensic experts were ordered to stand down from processing the scene of Renee Good's murder because Kash Patel, the podcaster who runs the FBI, did not want Good to be referenced as a victim in the warrant. So we know that happened as well. We also now know another piece of information that I'm today old finding out, that ICE killed yet another
young U.S. citizen, 23-year-old Ruben Ray Martinez of South Texas, back in March of 2025, last year. But the lack of transparency from the agency, from DHS, meant that there were no protests or even word that he was shot dead by ICE, other than people locally who knew about his death. So that makes at least 4 people shot dead under Kristi Noem's watch: Renee Good, Alex Preddy, Ruben Ray Martinez, and Keith Porter Jr., that we know of. And 32 people who died in ICE custody in 2025 alone, making last year the agency's deadliest year in more than 2 decades, even as the actual deportation numbers fall short of what Joe Biden did. So they're deporting fewer people, but killing more people. They and ICE, and also, of course, in DHS, the Border Patrol, which is who killed Alex Preddy. So bottom line, Noem, who oversees both Border Patrol and ICE, has been an embarrassing and deadly failure. And failure in any organization redounds to the top. And the top would be Donald John Trump, who, again, can't actually fire Kristi Noem, because when you crime together, you stick together. And you really never fire somebody who might decide, when they lose their livelihood, their source of income, that they might start talking. Joining me now is our friend Lev Parnas of Lev Remembers, and newly minted congressional candidate. Let's show y'all his new homepage, levparnas.org. If you would, Jason, that is B7, because he's got a whole new gig, which we're going to ask you about shortly. We want you to tell us all about this new adventure. But let's talk first, Lev, about Kristi Noem. What are you hearing inside about what was the final thing? There it is. There's Lev Parnas' website. We're excited. We're going to talk about that in a hot second, I promise. But talk about what finally was the reason that Kristi, and also I will note, Corey Lewandowski, her alleged maybe boyfriend, also out.
Joy, first of all, thank you. Incredible show, incredible work. I mean, it's a lot going on with her. So, first of all, Corey Lewandowski, just remind, I mean, you can't make this up, because it's like start all over again. If you go back to the first administration, similar thing. But back then he had a relationship with Hope Hicks. If people remember, he he had cheated with Hope Hicks, and then he got fired by Trump because he was drinking a lot. There was a lot of, even I remember in the parties. So nothing changed. Now he's back, and now he, I think Trump got rid of him this time also again. I think he's the one actually did get fired. But this steps goes back to Holman. Holman was having problems with Noem going back for a while already, because the way her and Lewandowski were doing things. Just think about how corrupt Holman is with the $50,000 cash bribe that he was upset with how these guys were. So it's like the corrupt being more corrupted than the others. So he was having issues with them and putting a lot of pressure on Trump, and that group started forming against what's it called? Noem. But then you had that Kennedy exchange, and that was basically she stepped right into it, but that was already set up. You could tell the way, Senator Kennedy and Senator, I forgot the other one that questioned her.
Big Nagoo's, Joe Nagoo's of Colorado.
Yeah, correct. Thank you so much, Joy. Those were, pre-planned, especially with Kennedy to start taking the heat away from Trump. And, she was the easy scapegoat because nobody really liked her already. She gave that, just like, great example that you gave was with Kimberly Guilford, because in the first administration, I remember Kimberly when she was dating and going out with Don Jr. I mean, it was the same exact makeover, same exact act. And then when it was time to go, it was time to go, So definitely great example with that. But yeah, she is right now. I think we're going to start hearing a lot of different things about Kristi Noem, about all of the little things, and her and Lewandowski and different things. Yeah. There's lots that's going to come out.
There's lots that's going to come out because somebody has to go under the bus. But I will note that not firing her is a choice, right? Because if she's freelance, I guess they could afford to let Dan Bongino go back out into the world because he probably won't talk. But she might have been involved in and overseeing crimes, or at least civil issues of defamation, et cetera. And you may not want her out there, like maybe going on Barry Weiss version 60 Minutes or on Fox and spilling her guts to Sean Hannity. So it probably makes sense to keep her on the payroll, right?
100%. I mean, and that's where you saw her get moved out, I think, to the Legion of Doom or whatever they call it.
Yeah, the Legion of the Americas. It's like that doesn't even exist.
I mean, I don't even know. I call it the Legion of Doom, but whatever that, they threw her into that organization, and so there, she is someone that I think you gotta understand. It's different. Different players hold different roles, and Kristi Noem is one of the players. Is a lot different than Dan Bongino. Dan Bongino, and I reported on him for a while. Him and Trump had it out once the Epstein report came out. And ever since then, him and Susie Wiles, him and Pam Bondi did not interact because of the Epstein files. It was a deal, basically, they had that right prior to New Year's that Trump would let him go and do his thing. Bongino would keep his mouth shut. And then you saw, and that was one of those things, because Bongino was never involved in the actual dirty work. It's just he saw things that he shouldn't have seen, kind of things, and kept his mouth shut. Kristi Noem is a different story. She's a Pam Bondi, even worse. I mean, she has blood on her hands. She has deaths on her hands. She has people, she destroyed families, immigration. I mean, the thing she went through is it needs to be held accountable. So that 100%, Joy.
1,000%. Yeah. And by the way, having just found out another person who died, a 23-year-old kid, a U.S. citizen, by the way, at minimum, the civil issues are huge, but maybe criminal when there's a real Justice Department. I want to go to her replacement. If you start seeing Markwayne Mullin with long, fluffy, flowing hair and plump lip filler and stuff, he's in trouble. Here's Markwayne Mullin. This is the replacement. I have called him the second dumbest member of Congress because, of course, Tommy Tuberville exists, and so no one's ever going to exceed him. But here's a classic moment from Markwayne Mullin, the congressman from Montana, a couple years ago.
Forced work states. I sure remember working pretty hard and long hours. Pretends like he's self-made. What a clown. Fraud. Always has been, always will be. Quit the tough guy act in these Senate hearings. You know where to find me. Any place, anytime, cowboy.
Sorry, Oklahoma.
Sir, this is a time, this is a place. If you want to run your mouth, we can be two consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on.
Big
Oh,
guy.
stop it.
Is that your solution every
Hold it. No, sit down. Sit down. Okay. You're a United States Senator. Sit down.
Active.
Oh, okay.
Sit down, please.
All right.
Can I respond? Mr.
Hold it. If
Hold
we
on.
can,
This
no,
is
I have the
what
mic.
he said.
I'm sorry.
This is
Hold
what
it.
he said.
You'll have your time.
Okay.
Can I respond?
Oh, no, you can't. This is a hearing. And God knows the American people have enough contempt for Congress. Let's not
I don't
make
like
it worse.
thugs and bullies. And that's what-
I don't like you because you
Hold
just
it.
described yourself.
Hold it. You have the mic.
Yeah.
You have time.
All right.
Make your statement.
Then let's do this, because I did challenge you and I accepted your challenge, and you went quiet.
No, I didn't go quiet.
Hold on.
You challenged me to a cage match,
No,
acting
no,
like a
sir.
12-year-old schoolyard
Hold it.
bully.
Excuse me.
Hold on.
Hold it. No, excuse me. I have the
I
mic.
will say exactly.
Senator
what you
Mullin,
said.
I have the mic.
Okay, so apparently Markwayne Mullin has, I guess, sort of MMA skills, but I would take Tim O'Brien, who's the Teamsters leader in that fight. Yes, he challenged the head of the Teamsters union to a fist fight. He's also gotten a lot of PPP loans. He has a big plumbing business. He is a businessman. I'll give him credit. Unlike Trump, he started a successful plumbing business back in his home state of Oklahoma. Sorry, I named in the wrong state. And he's an ultimate Trump loyalist. How's he going to fare inside of the regime?
Well, I'm hearing that Trump's building a stadium for his birthday, and Mullin is going to be one of the main attractions. He's going to fight in a cage match.
Stop.
No, I'm joking.
No, are you serious? Oh, okay.
No,
I would believe you though.
No, but
he's
actually building that I'm serious about. I didn't know you didn't know. Oh, you didn't know? Yeah, Trump is. Oh, wait, let's take a step back. I was joking about Mullin. I wasn't joking about the actual stadium, and Trump is there. I've been hearing I think it close to hold I don't know, over 50,000 people. He's trying to hold there 20 to 50,000 people. It's going to be on the front lawn of the White House. He's going to build this I don't know what kind of stadium or how it is. He's having problems with the East Wing, I'm hearing, for what he's doing there. But yeah, he's planning this for his and hold MMA fighting there. There's going to be a special fighting there for his birthday coming up June or July 14th for this year.
Bonita Jarrito with the comment of the night: "Nuck if you buck." Nuck if you buck. Let's talk about the other news today. I printed it out. I would love to talk about it because this is the other thing that happened today: is that the FBI went ahead and released the remaining information. And never forget, Jason, if you could put a B9, never ever forget who the homies were: Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein, Melania Trump, Donald Trump, all together now. This case, Lev, is repulsive. And this is the woman who did 4 FBI interviews. They only released 1. Now they've released the other 3. And here's some of what the FBI found from this person who came forward in 2019 while Trump was president and alleged that when she was between 13 and 14 years old, she was sexually abused by Donald Trump. And during an attempt at, oral abuse, she bit him in his micro, and he punched her or hit her, struck her. That is the allegation. It is not a conviction of a crime, but if he did it, it would be a crime. What is happening inside Trump world now that they know that this allegation is out in these streets?
Well, there's, obviously this only happened because finally they subpoenaed Pam Bondi, the chain of events. As soon as they subpoenaed Bondi, all of a sudden, miraculously, they released the stuff. So there's a major, look, the Epstein files, and that's one of the reasons, the timing of what transpired in Iran. I mean, a lot of people say, well, don't confuse. No, I want to make it very clear. It's one of the main reasons that Trump is, trying to take away from, because he understands he's, with what's going on with the Epstein files, he has lost total control of it, and it's leaking out, it's coming out. And that's why the 2 main things, and that's why I decided to even run for Congress and do all of these things, is because Trump is really planning a plan B. In the meantime, while he got himself into a real cluster with Iran because of what Putin pushed them into, and now we're seeing with the oil prices run, you're starting to see, and that's a whole conversation of its own. But in the meantime, what we're not talking about, and the most important thing that's happening here at home, is Tulsi Gabbard and people like Rick Grinnell and people like Ratcliffe, the CIA director, are preparing literally a memo or a plan for Trump to be able. It's like the nuclear button, Joy. If you remember, we used to talk about insurrection. He's gonna do it's no more insurrection law, because they've seen what happened when people stood up. They don't want to send the army in, so now they're going to use the power of the pen. So they're trying to basically, what Tulsi Gabbard is working on is giving Trump a way that he could sign a national law to be able to steal our election by federalizing how elections are done and how they're counted in certain states, because of what's happening in Georgia. And that's actively happening right now. The Post wrote about it a little bit. I keep speaking about it every day. But that's one of the 2 main reasons why we're seeing what's playing out with Iran. Because yes, the 2 things could be right at the same time. Can the Ayatollah be a bad guy? And absolutely. But the timing is very critical of why and what happened. And that's one of the main reasons also I chose to do what I'm doing, because I can't just talk anymore, and we need to get in and do action, because a lot of these people are just complacent.
I'm going to need you to say more about this, but I do want to talk about that, because now you are running. Tell me what district, what state. Tell me about this run for Congress, and what is your agenda, and who are you facing on the other side?
Yeah, so thank you, Joy. So I'm running in Florida. It's District 27. It's my opponent, who I'm running as the incumbent, is Maria Salazar. She's a hardcore Trump, Maria Salazar, exactly. And the district is made up primarily of immigrants like myself. They come from Venezuela, Cuba and Colombia primarily. And one of the reasons they're being lied to what's going on in Venezuela, and if you're watching what's being played out, especially, on your show, we spoke about it, on Wajah's show, Wajahid Ali's show, I spoke about who's really running Venezuela, why Delcy Rodriguez, and how everything is playing out. Now we're starting to see the normalization. All of a sudden, Trump is allowing air flights. So, all of a sudden, Delcy Rodriguez and all of these Maduro representatives that have actually, some of them still have $25 million bounties on their heads from the United States government, are now all of a sudden doing business, gold deals with Burchin and everything else like nothing ever happened. So that really pushed me over the edge. I said, the people deserve more. And, I've been living in Florida for over 30 years, and I decided enough is enough, like I always say. And I said, it's time to, I talk the talk, time to walk the walk. And, but my situation obviously is a little bit different than most because of my, going to prison for Donald Trump and still being on supervised release and having all of this done. But I've been able to assemble an incredible team, incredible lawyers, incredible group of people that combined and we were able to pull this off, and now we're running. And this is more than just and I want to make it clear, this campaign and this run, what I'm doing is, yes, it's for my constituents and my in District 27, but it's also for each and every American out there, because this race is not about just one district or one county. This race right now, these midterms, and that's why I went into the race, is my job is to help every single race, down the road, to make sure that we get new people in Congress, so we get people that are willing to be fighters, that we're people that are willing to stand up to Donald Trump and to all these, because it's not just Donald Trump, it's the people that he's infested into Congress, and we're seeing all over the place. And that's why this is more than just a district. This is, we're going to run a national campaign, because I tell you, Joy, literally after we announced, I had two congressmen, one current congressman, a Republican, and one ex-Republican Congress call me and literally pitch me and beg me to leave Maria Salazar alone. It's Trump's darling. And the more they pitched me, the more I said, absolutely not. I said, just bring it on. Then I got called and they told me that Trump was so upset that they're preparing a chest for her of $10 to $12 million to destroy me. So I said, tell him the message is that I will not take any corporate money. I will not take any special interest money. I will not take any super PAC money. And instead, I'm going to destroy you, uncover how you guys take all that super PAC money. And that's what I'm going to run on. So I'm running on a total grassroots movement. And I told him to shove it where the sun doesn't shine. And I'm going to uncover all of their dirty deeds, and not just them, but all of the people that are now serving in Congress and Senate, because it's the enablers that are allowing Donald Trump to do what he's doing. Because right now we could stop him, because if we had more people in Congress right now that were willing to fight and stand up for their constituents and their people and their American voice, right now we wouldn't be going through what we're going through. But so that is why, I'm risking a lot, Joy, because I've been getting threats already. I've been getting already, stay out of it. But at the same time, the support that I've been getting from people, that the outcry that thank you and we need you, and I'm going to do everything I can nationwide across the country to be able to make sure not only do we take the House, we take the Senate, and then we make sure that there's accountability, because the next step is accountability. Because you know what, some of our Democrats unfortunately don't know what to do. They like to get into power and then forget what happened and try to let's make nice. There's no making nice here. There needs to be account. People need to pay. People lost their lives. The families got destroyed. Look at what's going on in the world. Look at our economy. What happened with the gas price? All of a sudden, gas is nobody's talking about. Gas is running through the price, and it's just the beginning. People in my district can't afford to go get milk, food, and what's it called? Just the beginning. And what does Donald Trump and Maria Salazar say? Oh, it'll be good in a few years. We're doing it for the future. But in the meantime, it's good for who? While oil prices up, let's not forget who's profiting from this, Joy. It's the Russians. The Russians are making so much money that they're building their industry. They don't even need Iran or anybody else, because right now with oil at $100 a barrel, they're going to become so powerful you can't even believe it. Who else is getting rich? The Saudis, MBS, because who controls the oil? Who else? Let's think about who controls an account in Qatar that is controlled by Donald Trump, his loyal donors, and Delcy Rodriguez, the current president of Venezuela, that are, like Donald Trump said, oil is flowing, but who's getting paid? Where's the money? It's going to an offshore account. This needs to stop. Enough is enough. So that is why I'm running, and I ask each and every one of you to go to levparnas.org, because folks, I promise you one thing. Everything that I put on my platform, Lev Remembers, is translating to the campaign. This campaign is not about policy. It's about truth. It's about facts. It's about stopping the regime of authoritarianism and dictatorship, so we could get back to the table of talking about policy, so we could get back to talking about what's right and wrong. Because right now it's and that's why I'm going to Washington D.C. next week to speak to some of the. I have a lot of support. A lot of Democrats are going to be coming out, and I can't wait till it starts already next week. But there's a lot of them that still don't understand Donald Trump. And they still don't understand. They still try to run old-fashioned campaigns. And, and I'm going there and I'm trying to explain to them, you can't do that. You have to. It's not. No. When we get back our democracy, then we start back. But right now, we have to focus not against each other. We have to stop bashing each other. We have to stop fighting about policies and trying to destroy each other. We have to unite and take out this dictatorship. And that's what it's either. And then we could talk about all the policies we want
in the world. And you're running in which party, which primary, Democratic or Republican?
Democratic
Party. Okay, so we're gonna let everybody know. Lev Parnas, if you are in Florida in District 27, and look, Lev, I wish you all the best, because what they don't know, who are trying to come against you, is number one, you're Ukrainian. Have they seen Zelensky? He ain't scared of nothing. He's like, I'm not wearing a tie and I'm not giving in to Putin. So Ukrainian people are kind of next level tough guys. That's number one. Number two, you've been in the belly of the beast. So you know them better than they know themselves, and you know the dirt and the information. You have the information, which is what should really scare them. Because as I started this segment saying, when it comes to Kristi Noem, the same is true with you. If you're doing bad guy stuff together and you set the bad guy free, they might talk. And you did the bad guy stuff, my friend, and you decided you want to come onto the good guy side, but you brought your information bag with you. We appreciate you, Lev Parnas. We support you. This show supports you. Let's get a round of applause for Lev Parnas.
Oh, God bless you,
Joy. We got you. Come back anytime. Keep bringing us the tea, and also keep us updated on your campaign, Lev.
Thank you so much. God bless you. God bless America. And we will get our democracy back. I promise you guys.
We need it to Slava America.
Yeah, Slava, exactly. We're going to, believe me, we're going to kick some ass.
Amen. Amen. I love it. I love it. Lev Parnas, thank you very much, y'all. Look. We got tough guy friends. Like, don't play with Ukrainians. Ukrainians are different. Like, they just built different. Like, they're really not scared of nothing. They're really actually pretty tough. And also, don't play with the Irish either. I'm gonna let Markwayne Mullin know. Don't cage match with that man. He's gonna beat your ass. So that was good. We appreciate Lev Parnas. We definitely support him. And I actually love the idea of somebody being in Congress who knows all of Trump's tea. All right, welcome to hour 2 of the Joy Reid Show. Now, if you have not yet hit like and subscribe, what you waiting on? Here is your chance. Please also share this episode with that little bell thingy. You can share, and the little bell thingy lets you be notified whenever we go live. If you hit that little bell, you'll never miss anything that we do. Thank you to everyone who has already hit like and subscribe, who's hanging out in the chats. We appreciate all of you. And of course, we could not do this without our amazing sponsors. And this hour of the Joy Reid Show is brought to you by strawberry.me. Strawberry.me. Let me just ask you something. Are you where you want to be in your career? Or are you waking up every morning knowing that you're capable of doing more, but just not sure how to get there? Well, listen, success doesn't just happen. And the most successful people in the world do not just figure it out on their own. They have mentors, they have coaches, they have people who are guiding them every step of the way. And that is where strawberry.me career coaching comes in. Now, if you've ever been in a sports team, if you've ever played any kind of athletics, you know that that coach is key to your success. It's not just your own talent, it's who's giving you the instructions on how to be your absolute best. So if you think about it, careers should work the same way, right? And having a coaching session that allows you to really understand what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, where you could do better, that kind of expert guidance will help you identify the obstacles that are holding you back, help you develop a step-by-step plan, and let you take action with confidence, knowing that you have a dedicated coach supporting you every step of the way. So instead of relying on guesswork or waiting for the right time, professional coaching helps you take control of your career trajectory, ensuring that you make intentional, strategic moves toward success. So if you would like to get some career coaching to get yourself where you need to be, go to strawberry.me/joy and get 50% off your first coaching session. That is strawberry.me/joy. It's like therapy for your career. Pretty fabulous. I also want to note that this show is being brought to you by our friends at 120 Life. Now, high blood pressure, #1 risk factor for mortality. Like literally half of all adults have it. And everybody knows somebody in their life who is dealing with high blood pressure. And here's the dangerous part. It doesn't actually hurt. It doesn't knock on the door. Sometimes you have no idea the damage that's being done until it's too late. But by March, New Year's momentum is usually gone. You said you were going to work out every day and do all these things, but then busy gets busy again. Life gets lifing again, and you sort of put it off. But there's one thing you really should not put off is this idea of blood pressure. Don't put it off. And you don't need guesswork. So here's what I would suggest you do. Go and grab yourself a blood pressure monitor. You should have that anyway, so that you can always check your numbers. And then just drink 120 Life every day and check those numbers daily. Many people see improvements in as little as 2 weeks. They see those numbers actually go down, which is exactly why this product has become so popular. Especially if you're over 40, meaning you are seasoned and cute, or if it runs in your family, or if your doctor has ever mentioned blood pressure issues, this is for you. 120 Life is a once-a-day functional drink made from ingredients that help support healthy blood pressure. It's not a pill or a stimulant, not some trendy wellness gimmick. It tastes great, it's refreshing, and it's made from a blend of superfruit juices, which are really good for you. It fits into your normal real life. And the powdered version has just 1 gram of sugar, making it a smart option if you happen to be also watching your blood sugar. Hundreds of doctors actively recommend 120 Life to their patients. Over 1,000 health professionals have supported or endorsed its use, and it's increasingly becoming a go-to natural tool in clinical settings, not just in, shushy wellness circles. If you want to try it, go to 120life.com. That's 120life.com and use my code JOY or the code REID for 20% off. You can try it risk-free for 2 weeks. If your blood pressure doesn't come down, they'll give you a full refund. So go to 120life.com and use the code JOY or REID to save 20%. Do not wait until next month. There's nothing to lose except your higher blood pressure numbers. Go to 120life.com, use the code JOY or REID for 20% off. JOY or REID, cute codes. These statements have not been approved by the Food or Drug Administration, and this product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. All right, that is the disclaimer we got to give. All right, so now remember, I guess this was on Friday, our moment of,
Good afternoon. The 10,113th meeting of the Security Council is called to order.
Yeah, that was weird. But it turns out what is hilarious in Trump world is always also sinister. That opening of the Security Council meeting was a meeting regarding children's education, which came even as the US and Israel bombed a school for girls, killing nearly 200 little girls getting an education and injuring scores more. Here's Pete Hegseth being asked about what could genuinely be a war crime.
Tie right there. You got a tie on.
Yeah. Thank you. Come back with the BBC. Can you give us an update on what the administration knows, what you know now about the reported strike on a girls' school in southern Iran on Saturday?
All I can say is that we're investigating that. We, of course, never target civilian targets, but we're taking a look and investigating that. Red tie in front.
Just on the basis that with the information you would have, your reconnaissance abilities, ability to gather information, I mean, it's several days on now. So is there any clarity on whose munition this was?
We're investigating it. Thank you.
Right. So we're investigating it. That is literally very similar to what Israel normally says when they bomb a school or a mosque or a hospital, right? And note that this man, Pete Hegseth, styles himself as the Secretary of War, not the Secretary of Defense. Even as Republicans, including the House Speaker, insist that, in fact, despite bombing schools and getting into a conflict that's now drawn in a bunch of countries, we are not at war.
Well, we just had an important series of votes on the House floor. As you know, the War Powers Resolution failed. That is the right result. We are not at war. We have no intention of being at war. The President and the Department of Defense have made this very clear. The Department of War has made it very clear. This is a limited operation. It's an operation that's limited in its scope and duration. It has a very clear mission, and that mission is nearly accomplished by all estimates. We are taking down Iran's ballistic missile capability, its stockpile, and its ability to produce more. They were doing that at a scale and a speed that was more than our regional allies could keep up with, and it was a serious and imminent threat to the United States. We don't need to relitigate all that today, but also we wanted to take down the capability of their Navy, and all of that has been very successful. So this needs to continue. It would have been a very dangerous gambit to take the Commander-in-Chief's ability away to complete this mission. It would have been a very serious misstep by Congress, and I'm grateful that that resolution failed.
Yes, the Speaker of the House expressing gratitude that Congress did not do its job and rein in a president starting a war on his own without the body that is charged with starting wars, and the only one that can, meaning the Congress, getting involved. So since, Speaker Johnson has said we're not at war, behold, this is C4 Jason, 1 minute of us not being at war with Iran.
همین الان اسرائیل حمله کرد به صورت زنده موشک زدن و احتمالاً کشته داده اینجا مردم داشتن ولی میام بوده
Kind of looks like a war to me. And Americans are not having it. I want you to listen to Graham Plattner, who is running for the United States Senate in New Hampshire in the primary for the chance to, or in Maine, sorry, for the chance to unseat one Susan Collins. Here he was at a campaign event last week in Maine.
Watching people who know nothing of the horror that comes with this kind of violence. People who could not even imagine what it feels like in the pit of your stomach when you hear that one of your friends has been killed. Or watching one of your best friends be ripped apart by high explosive. Watching people who have no idea what any of this looks like or feels like celebrate this disgusts me. And then watching them turn around and tell us that these sacrifices are just what happens. We just need to be prepared for more casualties because that's what happens. It's not what fucking happens to them. Right. It's what happens to us. Yeah.
It's not what happens to them, it's what happens to us. Because the people who are, as Lev said, using a war to cover up the Epstein files, to distract from Trump's terrible economy, or whatever it is their reason is, whatever their sick, twisted reasoning, they don't have to fight it. They're not volunteering their sons. Neither Bibi Netanyahu nor Donald Trump are volunteering their sons. Neither of their families are involved at all. Both Netanyahu's son, who's chilling in Florida, and the sons, multiple, of Donald Trump, they have nothing to do with it. They're busy making lots and lots and lots of money sitting on boards. I think the youngest one is on the board of TikTok. They're just gawking money while regular people die. I saw a video today of Marines who were on their way to the region where we're not supposed to have boots on the ground, sleeping on the floor at Atlanta Hartsfield Airport. They didn't even bother to get them hotels. You know what I'm saying? So one Marine named Brian McGinnis decided he was going to show up on Capitol Hill to say no in person. Here's the video that he posted beforehand.
Hey guys, I'm here in DC trying to speak out against the Senate and ask them why they're going to send our men and women to harm's way when our elected officials said that there would be no war. Anybody who feels disillusioned and betrayed by our government, you're not alone. Join us in demanding accountability for this betrayal. Free Palestine, free America. Let's go.
And here's what happened when he showed up to protest.
For this war. America does not want to fight this war for Israel. Let's go. Come on, let's go. America does not want to send its sons and daughters to war for Israel. Your inability to name that shows your exemptness as leaders. This is wrong. And nobody wants to fight for Israel. A reminder to all our Commandant, please stand up as a Marine and stand up for America. No one wants to fight for Israel.
Sir, thank you for your service.
The senator broke his hand. The senator broke his hand.
He's a Marine. Somebody come help him.
Control your Senate committee.
Look at you guys. You're robots. You won't even look back. Look at you guys. You're like robots. Oh my God, what is happening? And you're not even looking back. Any of you 4-star generals. Oh my God, what is happening right now? I front robot.
That snap you heard was the bones of that Marine breaking. And the man who broke his bones, who broke his hand or his arm, I'm not clear with. I've heard stories that have said either one. I'm looking right now at a Fox News report that is calling him an unhinged protester. No, sir. No, ma'am. He is a Marine. His name is Brian McGinnis. He's a Marine Corps veteran who happens to be running for the United States Senate in North Carolina as a member of the Green Party. So he's a political candidate. And the man who broke his hand or arm is a sitting United States Senator named Tim Sheehy of Montana, who, rather than stand up for that man's First Amendment right to protest, snapped his hand, wrist, or arm, and then put out a statement calling him saying that Capitol Police were attempting to remove an unhinged protester. So now it is unhinged to declare that Americans do not want to go to the Middle East and die for Israel, because the only people who want this war, the only person who demanded it, was the Israeli prime minister. There's no America, there's not one, other than some far-right MAGA people who are very, very Zionist, who want us to be at war with Iran. There's no American interest here. What is the American interest? Oil prices have skyrocketed. If you've filled up your tank recently, you know that this war, and it is a war, I don't know what the definition of war is in Mike Johnson's world. This war is already making an already bad economy worse. The employment numbers were terrible this year. We lost jobs in February. It's getting worse. 92,000 jobs lost. Here's Professor Jeffrey Sachs. He is a sort of very brilliant professor who we're very much trying to get on the show at some point. But I want you to listen to where he says we stand and how we wound up here.
Men in charge in the United States have brought us into this. They are systematically destroying our country as they are destroying the Middle East. It's very, very serious. If you ask why do the roads not work and the bridges not work in the United States, why is infrastructure falling to pieces, why are living standards stagnant or declining, it's because we spend trillions of dollars in war. Trump let me add, is an utter disgrace to our nation. He lied to us every word about America first. His whole premise was we're not going to do this. And he did exactly the opposite of what he said. He did exactly the opposite of what the American people say. Of course, Congress is dead for all intents and purposes. Doesn't matter whether it's Johnson or Schumer, they're useless, these people. They're all in the Zionist lobby payroll. They have squandered our wealth. They have squandered our strength. They have diverted our attention from our elevators and our escalators and our roads and our power grid and all the things that make life viable for us, our housing stock, everything, to divert our trillions of dollars to this madness that is underway right now.
Indeed. And for what? Because the prime minister of Israel told Trump to. This, as the regime, is actually making it harder to avoid killing civilians like those little schoolgirls as their chosen war spreads to 18 countries in the Middle East. If you could throw up C9, Jason, 18 countries in the Middle East are now involved in this war. 18. It has spread all over the Gulf. Joining me now is the author of this piece in the Huffington Post that speaks about the United States, Akbar Shahid Ahmed, that speaks about the United States actually making it more difficult to avoid casualties, civilian casualties in the war. Akbar, thank you so much for being here. Please explain what the U.S. is doing to make casualties more likely than less.
Thanks so much for having me back, Joy. So what's remarkable about the Trump administration, among other things, is they came in with a really clear vision that they felt not only, as Dr. Sachs just said, that President Trump said the US had been wasting its time in wars abroad. Their argument was, it wasn't that we wasted money and treasure focusing abroad, we should have been more violent and vicious. And President Trump, from his time on the campaign trail, was talking about things like dipping bullets in pigs' blood to shoot Muslims, this kind of Islamophobic conspiracy theory that's been out there. When they came into office last year, the Trump administration began systematically destroying some of what the US military had taken as its lessons from the wars. The limited lessons that were taken of, let's not kill so many civilians because they will hate us in return, right? We're not going to strategically get anywhere. And you actually had, over bipartisan administrations, an investment in reducing civilian casualties, publicly reporting when the US government was causing civilian casualties. This was never perfect, let's be clear. It was always an undercount, according to human rights groups. But what my reporting found, Joy, is I spoke with sources familiar with internal US military discussions. And what they said to me was, we are terrified because not only do we have Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth out there saying we have, quote, no stupid rules of engagement, which sounds like an encouragement to war crimes to a lot of people, right? But internally, inside the Pentagon, at so many levels, we have reassigned the people who look at whether civilians are being killed. There are conversations in any strike about, is this proportionate? Do we need to do this? What's the backlash? Those conversations aren't happening anymore. And so that's creating a lot of concern.
So even the designation of the Department of Defense as the Department of War, which it was before World War II, it struck me as indicative of where they want to go with this. You saw Pete Hegseth sort of acting like he's like a dude bro from a 1980s movie, talking about more lethal effect. We want to make more lethal. We want to have more lethality. I mean, he was making it clear that the goal of changing the Department of Defense, meaning defend the United States, to the Department of War, meaning go out and proactively make war. That's the difference, right? That he's saying we want to not only do war, we want to kill more people. That seems to be policy.
This idea from Hegseth of lethality, right, is central to his entire mission. He's channeled it through this kind of pursuit of a strange vision of masculinity. He's pushed out a lot of women, and it's a very white masculinity, let's be clear. He's pushed out people of color, he's pushed out women, he's pushed out LGBTQ service members. And instead, the focus is, if we're just more brutal, we'll win. There's no evidence from that. And what's so important to remember, Joy, is these rules also protect Americans. The law of war also protects if an American service member is captured, how other countries treat Americans. That's a kind of reciprocal thing. If you're out there saying, we are no holds barred, then what is the message that everyone else takes? Not just the Iranians, militias, Russia and China for any future conflict. And that's again, what a lot of my military sources are really worried about.
Right. I mean, we, denounce Russia when they bomb a music school in Ukraine. And then we look the other way when Israel bombs school after school after school in Gaza. And then we help them bomb a girls' school in Iran. And so if girls' schools are now fair game, then in theory, there's nothing that's not fair game here in terms of our children's schools, right? I mean, you're then saying we fear that Iran will unleash Hezbollah terrorists to do what? Bomb schools, blow up a school, because we're killing children and saying, we'll look into it.
And the narrative from supporters of this war is really clear. So John Bolton, no longer a friend of Trump, but certainly was appointed by Trump in his first administration, asked about the school strike, said, well, don't build schools near military bases. American military bases have schools for the service members' children.
Yeah.
Right. It does take away any standard. And on the school strike, I broke the news yesterday that there were briefings to Congress about saying essentially the US probably did do that strike. Right now, the question we now have to see is there's also a credibility factor. Does the US at least own up when it does this? We know that Israel often will deflect, change its story. We know Russia does similarly in Ukraine. Can the US still hold up a higher standard? I don't know. And I appreciate you showing the graphic of my book earlier. My book is on Biden and Gaza and what was on enabled. And what we've seen is that direct line from the US enabling Israeli attacks in Gaza and never once in the Biden administration finding a single violation of international law. Not
And
once.
I'm sorry, I was trying to grab the full name of the book, right? Because I want to go into this a little bit, because unfortunately, as Jeffrey Sachs has said repeatedly, this is not a Republican issue. At this point, it's a bipartisan problem in that there is a lack of sensitivity toward the deaths of civilians, including children, when it comes to any Muslim country. It's seen as completely unacceptable to kill children in Ukraine or in Europe, but perfectly fine to kill children in Gaza or the West Bank, to shoot even, children that are near their own homes in the West Bank because they throw a rock at the IDF. If Israel kills them, the US kind of shrugs it off. Even Biden, your book is called Crossing the Line, Biden, his advisors, and Israel's war in Gaza. Talk a little bit about how that attitude also impacted the previous administration. And is there a connection between that and the way that Hegseth is behaving now?
Absolutely, Joy. I mean, you saw in the Biden administration, even before the Gaza full-scale invasion, you saw the Biden administration impose no consequences for the killing of the Palestinian-American journalist, Shireen Abu Akleh. So if the message is not only are we letting you get away with killings of Palestinians on a daily basis, but even a US citizen and a journalist, a special protected category, you've got a clear signal on the Israeli side. What my reporting found, and I think we're really seeing the fruits of that now, 2.5 years later on the Israeli side, you talked about Netanyahu feeling so emboldened to pull the US into war. And that's in part because the Biden administration, which verbally said, oh, we're a little critical of your war, kill fewer civilians, let in some aid, effectively never stopped cutting off the aid, right? So Netanyahu tested them again and again and again. You saw him cross the red line by invading Rafah, where there were the vast majority of the people in Gaza. Biden himself said, that is my limit. I will stop this. I will cut off the weapons. Nothing got cut off. You're also seeing a war in Lebanon again. And to me, what's so striking about your point about Hegseth is, I'm here in DC giving this interview. This is my fourth presidency I'm covering, second Trump. And you see so many of the same characters come in and out again and again with the same policies and no consequences. So Biden's advisor on the Middle East, for instance, was in the Trump administration, was in the Bush administration, helping direct the war on Iraq and the invasion of Iraq, which was a catastrophe, Why are we still listening to the same people again and again? He directed the Gaza war. Stats just came out today showing that in the first few days of this Iran war, it's actually been more than double the number of targets Israel hit in Gaza in its first few days. So what are we going to expect going forward?
Well, the other thing that people are, well, two questions. One, you've got this news about this company, Anthropic, this AI company that does not want its technology used, particularly to kill civilians, but the Pentagon has insisted we're going to do that anyway, or we're going to eventually delist you as a defense contractor. Do you have reporting on how much AI is being used for targeting and then for precision targeting? Because if we're using AI for precision targeting, it's going to be hard to argue we accidentally hit that school.
Right. I started talking to people about this. There's some other good reporting out there about this. Certainly, the US has been using systems called Maven. And these are echoes of systems that the Israelis use. Again, the Israelis had a whole set of targets, which was what made their aerial campaign so devastating. Because yes, you can have a set of targets. Absolutely. Do you know who is there at that time? Are there children? Are there women? Are there civilians? Are there unarmed people? If a combatant is at home, it's still a war crime if you kill them, if they're not actively fighting you, if they're not posing a threat. So what's interesting about the AI factor is it goes back to Hegseth's talk about lethality. If you're just trying to have a really high death toll, show a lot of damage, okay. But at some point when we talk about accountability, war crimes, violations of not just international law, but US law. US law says you cannot commit war crimes. And as a member of the military, you could be court-martialed. If you're involved in it as a civilian, you could face consequences. So I think there's a real risk there. And again, connecting it back to the Biden administration, thinking about some of the stuff I heard in reporting out my book on Crossing the Red Line and the Israelis, some of the narratives of why they didn't find Israel accountable are just stunning, right? So for instance, one lawyer told me who was involved in the war crimes investigations over Gaza, we'd all worked together in the Obama administration. Now we're working together in the Biden administration. We'll probably work together again. No one wants to rock the boat. No one wants to not be the good guy in the room, right? So these kinds of narratives are inside the US government now.
Well, that's frightening. And then to take it to the, further down the escalator toward hell, you now have an incompetent in charge of the Pentagon. Pete Hegseth is not qualified even to do his job. What are you hearing from inside the Pentagon, people who are willing to talk to you about, how competently they expect this war to be fought, number one, and whether or not we should expect there to be US boots on the ground?
So what's interesting and I think worrying is the incompetence, the concerns about the high level are really clear at kind of the uniform level, the JAG level, people with ranks, but the culture that's also set in is a culture of silence, and it's a culture of yes men, right? Because the message a lot of people, and you see this with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Kane, right? He's been out there with Hegseth every day briefing, which is part of his job. But from all the reporting, you've seen him be really skeptical, but not in any way seem to do anything to restrain Trump. Whereas the chairman who he pushed out, appointed under Obama, CQ Brown, maybe would have questioned him, right? And Trump obviously hated Milley, the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs. A lot of people have taken this message of hold their fire. And I draw the line, Joy, to not just war in the Middle East, but in a way, the boat strikes that we saw in Venezuela, around the Pacific, which are still happening, where the US is killing people shipwrecked. In a little way, that's a dress rehearsal, right, of breaking international law, getting away with it from Republicans and from Democrats. Democrats did not bring government to a halt, even though they made a lot of noise about those boat strikes. It became pretty clear to the Trump administration and to military officials who were worried if they were helping people commit war crimes, there's not going to be consequences. So that, again, builds in that fear of within the system, why would you question? You'll only be punished.
I will know on the question of people, sort of the culture of fear, and this is some news just for the audience to understand. ICE has arrested yet another journalist, a U.S. Spanish language news outlet reporter, no warrant. Her name is Estefany Rodriguez Flores of Nashville Noticias, who had produced reports that were unflattering to ICE, was arrested during a traffic stop. So in terms of the culture of fear, when we talk about reporters on the Pentagon side, Akbar, I have to imagine there are a lot of yes men now in that new Pentagon press corps that Hegseth constructed when they kicked the AP and other outlets out. Is that also something that people are fearing, that if they give too much information out about what we're doing, maybe even war crimes, even journalists maybe fear arrest?
Yeah, I think that's, and you saw the targeting of non-citizen journalists, right? And you've even seen the targeting of American citizen journalists. Hannah Nathanson, a Washington Post journalist, had her laptop, her cell phone taken away. I mean, the risks are really real. My sources are a lot more worried. And look, I will say, people who take that risk to talk to journalists, they are not doing it out of some desire for glamour, right? They are anonymous. They are trying to do it because they feel patriotic and they feel horrified by what they're seeing. And to their gut, they're thinking the public deserves to know this. That's why we have whistleblower protections. That's why we have protections for the press. And right now, especially with the Supreme Court, it's hard to know if those protections will still be upheld.
Yeah, I don't have any faith in the Supreme Court to uphold anything in the Constitution. They just want Trump to be able to do whatever he wants. My sort of exit question to you would be, I guess, Akbar, is there no fear inside of the Pentagon now of winding up in front of The Hague? Like, are they not concerned that some third-party country, just as South Africa dragged Israel and its leadership to The Hague, some other country, some country with a moral compass could simply drag the United States to The Hague? Like, this was a fear because we heard about it in journalistic circles during the George W. Bush administration, that people feared that George W. Bush would be taken to The Hague and wouldn't be able to leave the U.S. and travel, because that's what could happen, right? You couldn't travel to signatory countries as Bibi Netanyahu cannot. Do these people not worry that maybe Pete Hegseth and maybe some generals that are involved, some Pentagon officials may wind up as war criminals?
Yeah, or people down the chain of command. I mean, it's so important to remember, I just followed orders is not a defense against war crimes. It's just really important to remember. And I think people maybe haven't taken that lesson. Look, the US has had impunity from these kinds of systems for so long. But what I would say, and what kind of government lawyers I talk to say, and those who are a little more, I would say, forward thinking, acknowledge, the US was controversial post-invasion of Iraq. It was, obviously, there was a fear. At that point, the US was still such a predominant power. Now you have 20 years later, the US has elected Donald Trump twice. Russia and China have flexed their muscles. Other countries have come up. The US is not controlling the international system even the way it did 20 years ago. So yes, I think the risk is high, and it's the risk of The Hague. It's the risk of International Court of Justice, International Criminal Court. Also, a number of countries, you see this in France, you see this in Germany, who are prosecuting former members of the Syrian regime. They say we have universal jurisdiction. If you've committed a crime that is so grave, which could include bombing shipwreck survivors, which could include bombing schoolgirls, if you've committed such a major crime, we're going to prosecute it domestically, because that's our responsibility as a responsible nation. So yes, there's a risk. And just earlier this week, you saw 40 countries, including powerful countries, Brazil, South Africa, come out and say, we are considering not giving visas to Israelis or interrogating Israelis on site, because so many have been potentially implicated in Gaza war crimes. So Americans are facing a similar risk.
Absolutely. And we're hand in glove with Israel. And as they behave, so we behave. This is a problem, and one could say that maybe we started the sort of culture of brutality first, and they followed us. But whichever followed whichever, we're both behaving in tandem in horribly brutal ways. The book is called Crossing the Red Line: Biden, His Advisors, and Israel's War in Gaza. The expert, really fantastic journalist who wrote is Akbar Shahid Ahmed. And we're excited about the book. I'm definitely going to order my copy, and then I'm going to have you back on specifically just to talk about more about the book. Congrats on the book, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Joy.
Thank you very much. We love an expert around here. So there we have it. And you heard what Akbar said about the culture inside the Pentagon becoming very much white male, which means, tell a MAGA friend that they are not interested in Black people, women, Latinos, Asian people, indigenous people dying for Israel. If you are a white family out there listening to this or getting a clip of it from your liberal relatives, it's you that they want to go and die. It is white men who they are calling on to lay down their lives for Israel. The collateral damage are the people who are not white men, who are still in the military and find themselves swept up, including some immigrants who they have no problem putting on a ship and sending over to be cannon fodder as well. But they're making it very clear that they want an army that is white men. And so if you are a white man, know that you are targeted. There's a reason that Marine, his demographic is the demographic. They want to lay down their lives very clearly, not for U.S. interest. There's no U.S. interest that we can discern here. No one has identified what the American interest, where's the America first? This is what Israel wants. And they're getting it. And I don't know, maybe I don't know if I loaded it, but Jason, there's a C9 that just shows all the countries that are involved in the war. It's like a map. And it's fine. I may not have downloaded it. But the reality is this war has sucked in 18, that's not a typo, 18 countries have been sucked in. France and England are already on the brink of being pulled in because their citizens are involved there and they have to protect their citizens and get them out of there. And sending a military ship to go get your people, which they're doing, and we're apparently not. I mean, they were sending out some videos today or pictures of U.S. planes going in to try to get American citizens belatedly out of the area. But the reality is just sending a plane over to go get them, that could be shot down. And then all of a sudden we're in it. You've had NATO having to defend sites in Turkey. That's drawing NATO into it. This is potentially World War III. Israel is bombing Lebanon right now. And they used to occupy Lebanon for a really long time. They're expanding the war. They have finally gotten what they want, and they want more. I want you all to listen to a combination here of Don Rumsfeld. If you guys remember the Project for the New American Century. Do you guys remember Project for a New American Century? There it is. These are all of the countries that for so far have been sucked into this war, which the Speaker of the House claims is not a war. That to me looks like World War III, because you also have to realize that the United States is in it and Canada is saying they might not be able to stay out of it. If NATO gets involved, if Turkey is threatened, this is bucking right up on Europe's doorstep. This is World War III in the making. Donald Trump said he wouldn't do war. He said he wanted a Nobel Peace Prize. FIFA gave him a fake peace prize. The woman who was the opposition leader in Venezuela gave him her peace prize, as if you can transfer it. And yet he's starting World War III. Go back to something called the Project for a New American Century. This was an old sort of plan that went around and sort of bopped around the neoconservative world, that we would fight 3 simultaneous wars in the Middle East against Iran, Iraq, and Syria, depose all of these governments and establish global hegemony for the United States in the region, the United States and Israel. Pete Hegseth is starting to sound like Don Rumsfeld. This is D1.
I can't tell you if the use of force in Iraq today would last 5 days or 5 weeks or 5 months, but it certainly isn't going to last any longer than that.
President Trump has all the latitude in the world to talk about how long it may or may not take. 4 weeks, 2 weeks, 6 weeks. It could move up. It could move back.
Yeah. We've heard this whole thing before. It'll be short. We'll be in, we'll be out. Won't take that long at all. It's very Project for a New American Century. We can fight an 18-front war in just a few weeks. They've got like 100 days planned to fight an 18-front war. And that's not going to be World War III. I want you to listen to another clip of TV Pete, the completely unqualified TV presenter who's running what he styles as the Department of War, talking about what may be the bigger plan.
Great. Why President Trump has drawn a new strategic map from Greenland to the Gulf of America to the Panama Canal and its surrounding countries. At the Department of War, we call this strategic map the Greater North America. Why? Because every sovereign nation and territory north of the equator, from Greenland to Ecuador and from Alaska to Guyana, is not part of the global south. It is our security perimeter in this great neighborhood that we all live in. Each one of these countries border either the North Atlantic or the North Pacific. Each one of these countries sits north of the 2 basic geographic barriers that exist in this region, the Amazon and the Andes Mountains. This is basic geography that we don't teach in schools as much as we should. and it restores our North-South relations, and we must get it right. In the North, the United States must enhance posture and presence in cooperation with you and our sovereign partners to defend our shared immediate security perimeter. In the South, meaning south of the equator, the other side of this great neighborhood, we will strengthen partnerships through increased burden sharing. This will enable you to take your greater role to defend the South Atlantic and the South Pacific, and to secure critical infrastructure and resources in partnership with us and other Western nations. This is what we did in World War II, just like we sunk ships with torpedoes in World War II. At the Department of War, we called it the quarter sphere defense. And we will do this again.
First of all, there is no such thing as the Department of War. It's called the Department of Defense. But note that the shift from the Department of Defense, which is its legal name, because only Congress can change the name, to this designation of the Department of War preceded the aggressive, warlike, expansionist tactics that included bombing ships in the Caribbean, kidnapping the president of Venezuela and his wife and breaking her hip in the process, and then leaving the whole regime in place except for them. And now an aggressive war that is pulled in 18 countries in the Middle East by attacking Iran with Israel. I want you to go back to January and note that this idea of the greater North America is not new. Donald Trump posted a map as he sat in the gilded Oval Office that he's turned into, it looks like a Saudi prince's palace now. He posted a map that had the U.S. flag. I don't know if you can see it. You can squint down and see it. It has the U.S. flag that is imposed over Greenland and basically all of North America, including Canada. And you heard Pete Hegseth say all the way down to Guyana, my mother's country, that sits on the Caribbean Sea, but attached to South America. This idea of a greater North America that it eats up the whole Caribbean, that eats up Guyana, and that apparently will be under the United States' control, this is not new either. Back in the 1930s, there was a movement called the Technocracy movement. It turns out that Elon Musk's relatives were a part of it. I believe his grandfather was in on it. And it was the idea that you would replace nation states like the United States with a technocratic cross-border movement. These are the people who say, we need borders. We can't have immigrants violating our borders. They don't believe in borders. The technocracy movement says we violate the borders and we effectively merge all of North America. And we remove democracy and place this big glop that used to be North America, Canada as a separate country, the US as a separate country, Central America having separate countries. We wipe that away. And in the view of this technocracy movement, we would put this whole new big giant super country under the control, not of elected officials, but of technocrats, a group of elite tech savvy people who would actually control this conglomerate. It would be an autocracy run by technocrats. Elon Musk comes from people who push this. Elon Musk has pushed this, accelerating Starship development to build the Martian technocracy. Yeah, Elon Musk is somebody who has pushed the idea of having a technocracy in part by colonizing Mars. I know it sounds crazy, but there are people who I call techno-feudalists. Lots of people use that term. They believe that these high-tech AI backing techno guys should actually run the world, and that they should expand the United States and eat up other countries in an imperialist takeover of Greenland, of resource-rich countries. Why do they want those countries? Because underneath their soil, they have the minerals, Greenland in particular, that can power this new AI-fueled economy, the modern version of these people. So that's why they want Greenland, because under Greenland is a lot of power, producing resources that can help power their new AI economy. What is propping up the stock market such as it is, because it's down like every day now, is the AI economy. AI requires immense amounts of power. They're building these AI, or at least trying to build these AI plants all over the country. They're polluting the water, they're polluting the air, they're putting methane in the air, but they don't care because they don't live near it. And this is going to be the new economy, a combination of that and mass incarceration of immigrants and dissidents who can then be used as cheap labor. They want to create this real nightmare for everyone but them. This small elite would be incredibly empowered. So these are the people who care about borders. They don't really care about borders. They're producing a similar ideology that you have in Israel, that Bibi Netanyahu believes in, which they call Eretz Israel, Greater Israel. They too have a belief on the far right of Israeli society that rather than tiny Israel, which is smaller than Rhode Island, they should annex and be able to either annex or control a giant swath of the Middle East, which would be subordinate to the Israelis, that they would either have it and put their settlers there or just control it and have puppet governments around, the same way that Russia believes that they should have their sphere of influence and that it should re-include Ukraine and the Slavic countries, and they shouldn't be independent either. They should either be reabsorbed into the Soviet Union or have puppet governments that answer to the Soviet Union. You see where I'm going? China believes the same thing about Taiwan. And the idea behind this is this idea of, rather than a multipolar world, or a unipolar world where you have sort of the US as the superpower, because that's what we've had since World War II, you'd have a multipolar world of spheres of influence. And there'd be an Asian sphere of influence that China would control. There would be a Eurasian sphere of influence that Russia controls. There would be a Middle Eastern sphere of influence that Israel controls. And there would be a North American influence that the United States controls, running all the way from Canada all the way to Guyana. And then, of course, there would be the global South, which would be exploited for its mineral resources. And it's not just me saying this, particularly when it comes to the Middle East. Tucker Carlson is starting to say it. Now, I'm not sure why he's saying it. I'm not sure what his motives are. I don't necessarily trust his motives, but I want you to listen. Tucker Carlson has been effectively kicked out of MAGA. Trump said he's no longer MAGA. He's kicked him out because MAGA is dividing into two spheres now. There is the ardently pro-Russia part of MAGA, and there's the pro-Israel part of MAGA. Apologies. And there is the firmly anti-Israel part of MAGA. It is breaking down into these two camps. And the pro-Israel part of MAGA, the one that believes in this Eretz Israel, they are winning right now because Donald Trump is listening to them and not listening to this other side. Candace Owens is on that side. Tucker Carlson is on that side, right? Ben Shapiro's on the other side, and other people who follow him. And they're very happy right now with what Trump is doing because he's made MAGA MEGA, where it's basically we're doing spheres of influence and we're going to unleash Israel to claim its sphere of influence. It's Eretz Israel. Here's Tucker Carlson sounding kind of like me.
Everybody knows the only reason we're having this war is because Israel wants it. This is their last chance, they believe. This presidency is the last presidency where they're going to have unequivocal bipartisan support. Period. You can't primary every Thomas Massey, and there's a whole army of them coming at some point because everyone can see what's going on. And you can shut down X, and you can shut down the internet. You can be like Great Britain and arrest people who protest Israel, but attitudes are not going to revert to what they were 5 years ago. Sorry. And they know this. Zionism, whatever that is. So people have been kind of like, they don't want to have that fight, so they've just sort of let this fester. And then there's the other factor, which is physical fear, because Israel is so violent and is constantly bragging about murdering people and blowing up kids with pagers or leveling Gaza. I mean, this is the most violent country in the world by far, per capita. So there is a feeling that, like, whoa, if you criticize them too much, they could hurt you. And I get that. I'm not criticizing anyone who's afraid, because there's a reason to be afraid. However, we've gotten to a place where we're potentially going to like wreck our economy and Americans will die because one guy, Benjamin Netanyahu, thinks it's a good idea or good for his political career or whatever. Like, that is truly bonkers. Like, why are we allowing this?
You've appealed to Genesis. Genesis 15 says it's Abram, it's pre-Abraham, it's Abram, receives from God the news that his descendants will inherit the land. And you tell me as the theologian if I'm getting this wrong, but from the Euphrates to the Nile. I think that's right. And that would include like basically the entire Middle East. That would be the Levant. So that would be Israel, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon. It would also be big parts of Saudi Arabia and Iraq. It would be, I mean,
I'm not sure it would go that far. I mean, it would be a big piece of land, but here's the point.
It would be a lot of places that are now countries.
But this particular area that we're talking about now, Israel, is a land that God gave through Abraham to a people that he chose. Christian Zionism. I want to go back because that's where we started.
I'm not going to let you off on this because you have said it 3 times that God gave this land to this people. And so it is entirely fair for me with respect to ask, what land are you talking about? Because I just read Genesis 15, as I have many times. And that land, I think it says, from the Nile to the Euphrates, which is, once again, basically the entire Middle East. So God gave that land to his people, the Jews, or he didn't. You're saying he did. What does that mean? Does Israel have the right to that land? Because you're appealing to Genesis. You're saying that's the original deed.
It would be fine if they took it all.
It would be fine if they took it all. Okay. Mike Huckabee, everybody. U.S. Ambassador, I think, to Israel. Christian Zionist. You see where we're going? Eretz Israel on the table. BiBi, you want it? Take it. And I'm not sure how genuine Tucker is, to be honest with you, because he is vehemently anti-diversity, vehemently anti-immigrant. He wants effectively to end non-white immigration in the United States. So don't think of him as some sort of hero. And I will note that one of the people who exited MAGA to go on this anti-Israel side of MAGA is Marjorie Taylor Greene, who officially went on X Twitter and endorsed that guy, Tucker Carlson, for president. And there has been rumor mills for quite a long time that he's going to run. And if he ran, what he would do is run against pro-Israel MAGA, meaning J.D. Vance, who will be the leader of that technocratic, Peter Thiel, Epstein class movement, because these are all the people who are running around, kikiing with Jeffrey Epstein. All the tech bros were chilling with him because he too believed in this technocracy. He believed in this AI-controlled future. He was investing in it. He was investing in Palantir. He's down with that movement. So you've got the Epstein elite that are on one side of this MAGA movement. And then you've got the anti-Epstein, anti-immigration, pro-rinse America white MAGA, which Tucker is a big part of. So just never think that he's doing this for some good reason. Now let's understand what this is doing to you. They're doing this not to make you richer or more prosperous. They're doing it and they're draining everything Americans have. D8, please.
Record number of people tapped into their 401ks early last year. How many did that?
6%, or about 4.5 million people, took out hardship withdrawals. The number's concerning, but it is easier to tap your retirement account early because of changes that Congress has made in recent years that allow you to do that.
Hardship withdrawals. You know that if you take a hardship withdrawal out of your 401k, you're undermining your retirement. This is like not even a good way to retire anyway. We should have pensions, but they're gone. People are now tapping their 401ks. That's how much people are struggling. They're effectively economically draining ordinary Americans, including these people who put everything they have in this little 401k, who are now having to tap it to live, to survive, to pay their mortgages. They don't care, because the future, again, is the rest of us are sheep. The rest of us are cattle. And they, the elite, will profit from the minerals that we live on top of and will profit from our cheap labor. Everything else will be replaced by AI. But you know who disagrees with this version of the world? The global South. You see how they were kind of dismissed by Pete Hegseth? Botswana is a country that might have the most gold on earth other than the Democratic Republic of Congo. Or I'm sorry, diamonds on earth other than the Democratic Republic of Congo. It is a diamond diamond mine with people. It's so many diamonds, big, giant, really diamonds. And it's been exploited for generations. Its labor has been exploited. Its people have been exploited. They've got a new president. I don't want you to listen to how he sounds.
Seeing a world where rules seem to matter very little, and they matter only depending on who is benefiting from them and who is wielding the stick at any given point in time. We know that public international law respects territorial integrity. It respects the sovereignty of nations. And it also requires that the people of every nation state must exercise their self-determination. They must determine what happens within their borders. And to have external powers intrude and remove any head of state, regardless of what the circumstances are, I think it's something that is utterly shocking, and it is an affront to a rule-based international order.
President Duma Boko was invited by Donald Trump to the White House for one of those meetings like the South African president had to sit through. And he said no. He has turned down a meeting with Donald Trump and said, you want to buy our resources. We have the minerals. You're the customer. Typically, the customer comes to the seller, not the other way around. If you want our resources, get your ass on a plane and come to Botswana, and then we can talk. I like it. And this is what's happening across the African continent, is that African leaders are saying we are no longer going to allow our countries to be bought and sold and exploited. The smart countries, the Burkina Fasos, are saying, F you, West. You guys want to form your weird technocratic, spheres of influence bullshit? Well, guess what our sphere of influence is? The youngest continent on the planet. The people who have the median youngest age on Earth. The largest growing population that will be $1 billion in our lifetime, 1 billion people, in our lifetime. Endless mineral wealth. Even with all the exploitation throughout all of Europe's history of exploiting Africa, they ain't run out yet. They still have gold. They still have minerals. They still have all the things. They're still Wakanda. As much as has been stolen from them, they still have more. And now they're starting to set terms for who can have it.
What are the highest scores on the...
happen? Ooh, are we playing him yet? Well, what's going to happen as we're about to go into our moment of joy is that Pete Hegseth and company think it's going to go one way. It might go another way. The global South is not here for the shits. Not here for the shits. They have plans too, and they have resources to fight back. So go ahead, America. Go ahead, falling empire. Drain your resources using $1 million bombs to hit Iran's $20,000 drones. Eventually, you're going to run out of money to buy more bombs, and you're eventually going to see your dollar shredded, your economy cooked up, and who's going to be waiting in the wings to thrive in partnership with China? The global South. Let's go to our moment of joy. It is from the great city of Detroit, Michigan. An adorable third grader from Detroit is proving that big brains can come in small packages. 8-year-old Miles Dantzler was recently accepted in Mensa, the prestigious high IQ society, an achievement that has made his parents and his community very proud.
What are the highest scores on the IQ test? It makes me really proud of myself.
Being a part of Mensa means he'll get to challenge his mind and connect with others who share similar interests.
When you guys saw that acceptance letter to Mensa, I mean, what was your initial reaction?
What was I shocked? No. If anybody deserved it, absolutely, because you know what? It was well earned and well deserved.
When he started reading words that I couldn't read or correcting me when I was reading books to him, I was like, okay, this is it.
There's an underwater country called Zealandia. It's actually the 8th continent.
It's so cute. Oh my gosh. Miles is adorable. He is a new Mensa member, Miles Dantzler, the smartest little person in the world. Now, if he was running the Pentagon, we might be okay. If he was running the country, we'd probably be fine. But it's not his level of quality that's running the country. It's just stupid people. Thank you all for tuning into the Joy Reid Show. I hope you guys have a fantastic, fantastic weekend. On Monday, the great Congresswoman Kamlager Dove, the one who asked that question, one of the ones who took out Kristi Noem just by asking her if she's sleeping with her subordinate. I mean, she could have just answered the question. She will be here on Monday. Have a great weekend. In the meantime, if you're not hit liked and subscribed or share, please do it now. We wish you guys a fantastic weekend, and please stay safe out there. Try to stay sane. And I am so sorry about those gas prices. Maybe do something in walking distance. Try not to drive, because baby, $4.15. I just filled my tank at $4.15 a gallon. Lord have mercy. All right, love you guys. Take care. See you Monday. Bye.
Getting back to the basics, grassroots level. Let me dig a little deeper with the shovel. Plenty can't tell the forest from the trees, and I'm hard to detect, like a black hole in the dark. Injustice anywhere, it's a threat to justice everywhere. Let me make this clear, I got a bone to pick, and I'll never fear the threat of poverty. They don't want to talk about it, they rather party, so I'm a real talk about it, for sure.